Hello and welcome everyone, I'm TheJWittz, and this is another implementation of TCG Tuesday, where I play the Pokemon trading card game online, and show you guys a new or significant deck right now. Now, unfortunately, at the moment, I am struggling to get that Sigilif deck with Trubbish working. The Pokemon trading card game online still has that bug. It's a fun deck, I can't wait to show you guys, but until then, I decided to try a Drifblim deck with Garbodor and Flareon and a whole lot of Pokemon and techs. Now, Dylan Bryan was able to pilot this deck surprisingly to the top 16 at this year's World Championships. His list was a little bit different than mine. Mine's using Flareon and Drifblim, but I'm using a combination of the new Drifblim from Plasma Blast and the old Drifblim that he used in his deck. He had some fighting attackers in there as well. In fact, on the site, I think 60cards.net, he released his deck list and analysis, and it was a really great free article, so I will show you guys that in the description if you're interested. However, that was before the new format. So my opponent is running a deck that seems to be cropping up a bit lately, and that is Emboar with Rayquaza and Reshiram. Now, this deck has been, Emboar itself was a strong card and was used as far back as Black and White's inception. The only problem was it's kind of slow, has 4 retreat costs, that type of stuff. However, now that this grass, Farizi and Genesect deck is getting a lot bit bigger, these fire attackers can be a little bit stronger. So I play Ultra Ball, already dumping 2 Pokemon from my hand, grabbing an Eevee, and while that isn't great, it's really the best I can do. My goal is to evolve Eevee on turn 2 into a Flareon and start attacking. Flareon's power is pretty much completely based on whether or not I can get a lot of Pokemon in my discard pile, and he plays an N, which actually helps me out quite a bit. I only have 3 cards in hand. I did have a guaranteed supporter with the random receiver, but I didn't really have that much to work with. This is that much better. So draw an Eevee, my opponent has passed, he's decided not to use Rayquaza's first attack in order to not take any risks. You might end up discarding cards off the top of your deck. So now I have some really nice room to move. I've got an Ultra Ball, which gets me a guaranteed Flareon. I've got a double colorless, which gives me a guaranteed attack. I probably won't get that many Pokemon in the discard pile on this turn, but applying any kind of early pressure is really helpful. Another thing, though, that I'm really compelled by is that Garbodor in my hand. Garbodor, if you can get a tool attached to him, his Garbotoxin ability will shut down the Emboar's Inferno Fandango, which pretty much shut down my opponent's deck altogether. Emboar is basically exactly the fire version of Blastoise right now, which is seeing considerably more play with stronger EX Pokemon. So instead of trying to attack this turn, I know it's not going to be that strong, I decided getting a Garbodor is going to be a higher priority here. Now, I do have the Flareon. It looks like I decided not to attach the double colorless energy. I don't know, maybe I just thought I wouldn't be able to evolve, wanted to save it. That was probably a mistake on my part. But either way, I've still at least got a Garbodor coming up. So all I need to hope for now is that my opponent does not find an Emboar and a lot of fire energy. You can see in his discard pile he's got a lot of cards that are similar to the Blastoise deck, geared around getting a lot of energy in your hand. And him evolving into the Pignite gives me quite a bit of hope. Yep, he just passes. So my opponent is seemingly short a supporter card. I've got a lot working with me. If I can get this Garbodor out, I can just shut him down entirely. So Audino's a card in the deck, and I actually place him down on the bench just trying to show his ability. His Busybody ability lets you remove a damage counter and a special condition, and you essentially just discard him from your hand into the discard pile. So in many ways, Audino is pretty much just an item card that helps boost Flareon's Revenge attack. Or actually, I don't believe it's called Revenge. We'll see when I get to it. But that's essentially what it is. It's an attack that does more damage when you have Pokemon in the discard pile. I'm starting to count them up. And I've got Garbodor. Things are looking pretty good. I can evolve to Garbodor because I have that Floatstone tool attached to me. I now shut down all abilities, both mine and my opponent's. That said, I'm not using any. Vengeance, not Revenge. So I use Vengeance. It's only dealing 70 now, but it's not terrible. If I could get a few more Pokemon in the discard pile, my next turn, I could really start rolling. So he does get Emboar out. Oh, and there's the Tool Scrapper. Definitely a card I did not want to see. Removes my Float Stone, and all of a sudden, Inferno Fandango, completely okay for use. So now he can attach as many fire energies as he likes from his hand. He's got the Juniper drawing all these cards. So my Garbodor strategy is not great at the moment. However, I do have another Float Stone in my hand that I can attach. And usually these type of decks, because they commit so many cards to the rare candies, the evolutions, high energy count, multiple attackers, they can't fit multiple Tool Scrappers. So at this point, I'm just crossing my fingers that my opponent has just one. I put up Garbodor because I know I'm just going to attach the Float Stone to it anyway. There it is, Inferno Fandango now shut off. Lucky for me, Rayquaza EX discards energy with his attack, so he won't be able to power up quickly unless he has another Tool Scrapper. So with that free retreat, I decide to throw up Drifblim just as a buffer and drop down my Stadium card, the wonderful Tropical Beach, which I wish I had earlier on all those non-attacking turns. Allows you to, instead of an attack, draw 7 cards and end your turn. So I have a full new hand of 7, still no supporter, which is a little bit disappointing. But I see another Garbodor, which could be useful if he ends up finding a way to knock mine out. Got Super Rod to get a few pieces back if I have to. Way to get more Pokemon into the discard pile, which is huge. And doing the math, it looks like I should be able to knock out Rayquaza this turn, which is excellent. Yep, doing the math, I should have enough to deal it and 10 extra. So I've got Ultra Ball. A little hesitant, in fact, yeah, with the Audino in. I can throw Audino in and that's fine. That's my 10 extra. I want to hold on to Garbodor. I definitely want to put the Eevee down. So I won't be able to get like multiple Pokemon in the discard pile, but one more helps. And should be enough to get a knockout on this turn with my Flareon. So even though Flareon is a non-EX Pokemon, has low HP, he can duke it out with some of the bigger Pokemon out there, because you can power him up really quickly with a deck that's catered around getting Pokemon in the discard pile. Now, there are a lot of problems with running as many Pokemon as I do. I think I run 25 or 26, which is a ridiculous amount of Pokemon. So your hand can get clogged with them. You can't run as many cards like Pokemon Catcher as many other decks do, but you do get to run a whole lot of evolution options to deal with all kinds of decks. Now, the whole point of this deck, and why I was trying to run it for today's TCG Tuesday, was because I could use the new Plasma Blast Drifblim. That said, he's really only useful against decks that are Team Plasma, so not going to be much of use here, but he's there as discard fodder. So I take the 2 prizes off Vengeance, totally okay with that. Now, my opponent actually needs to attach an energy to attack with Reshiram. He plays Ceylon, however you want to pronounce him, get 3 energy in hand. However, once again, he's got another attack that requires him to discard energy, so he could be stuck while I have some free time to rebuild. Once again, that Garbodor is sticking and helping a whole lot. So I evolve, I can attach, or I can try and end and maybe hit the double colorless energy. That said, I've already gone through a couple of them, so I'm not really banking on it. I've also got the Super Rod to get a few things back in. At this point, looking at what I do, Super Rod is tough. You never want to play it right away because it's going to remove that extra damage you can deal with Vengeance. That said, my opponent doesn't have any EX Pokemon in play, and I want to make sure I can get more Flareon in. So I go 2 EVs and a Flareon. That's minus 30 damage on a future Vengeance, but oh well. So I decide to play the risk. Maybe I'll hit double colorless. Oh, I don't. Now I wish I had just attached the fire. So sometimes playing risky can hurt you. At this point, I don't really have too much working for me. Like, it's tough. I don't want to leave Garbodor up there. If he gets knocked out, my whole strategy is ruined. That said, I don't want Flareon to be knocked out either. He's my attacker. So I'm just banking with this Tropical Beach and passing. My opponent will not have a Tool Scrapper and will only be able to hit for 20 damage at the most. So he plays Super Rod. It doesn't seem like he has a supporter either, so maybe he'll just... Oh, well, there's a supporter, but it's Skyla. Gets him a Master Ball, which is an A-spec card that not too many people have played, as I've noticed. Lets you just search your deck for any Pokemon. In a lot of ways, I like cards like Computer Search or Dowsing Machine a little bit better, but hey, you don't discard, and you get to draw a whole lot of cards with Tropical Beach here, so... It wasn't the worst card ever. That said, at the point he's in, I'm sure he wishes he had a dowsing machine in there, which could let him easily tool scrapper and start attaching fire again. So I play Juniper, discard 2 other Junipers, which kind of hurts, but in the same process, a whole lot of other Pokemon. Finally found a double colorless energy, so I am ready to do work. Counting up the math, and it looks like I've got just enough, I think 140 damage here, to knock out my opponent's Reshiram. So I can bench Eevee, I can evolve again, I have a supporter set for next turn. There he goes. So far we've taken 3 prizes using pretty simple 100 HP Pokemon's attack, but when you have a deck catered around it, it can really be abused. And combined with the fact that I run Garbodor to help me against some of these metagame decks, this deck can be pretty powerful. It's got a setup, it definitely needs turns to work with, but Garbodor's Garbotoxin is such an incredible ability, and it'll be useful in pretty much any format until that card gets rotated. Abilities are such a huge part of some decks, and especially for decks like this Emboar one, it's pretty much all you have. So I can evolve here. Looking what I've got, counting up, I've got plenty of Pokemon in the discard. I'm trying to debate, should I bench this extra Eevee or not? Don't really feel like I have to, because I don't have another Flareon. So really, he's just catcher bait, an easy prize. I'll leave him in the deck. I have no easy way to discard him. And I decide to end. It's not like I need any crucial cards here, and energy would be nice, but putting my opponent at 3 cards is definitely helpful. Hit with a Vengeance, Tepig falls, and really I can just keep taking prizes every single turn while my opponent has to attach 1 at a time, and if he whiffs fires, he could be out of this game completely. So he attaches there, he's 1 more away from an attack. Plays Catcher, pulling up my other Flareon, which could hurt. That said, I do have Juniper. But looking at the discard pile, there are also 2 double colorless in the discard. Oh, just kidding! My opponent has quit! So I was trying to debate whether or not I should play the Juniper, try and hit double colorless, or just attach, retreat, or just attach, and maybe attach again the second turn. Either way, I was still in a very good spot to win that game. My opponent was clearly running out of fire energy, but it just goes to show you, sometimes a simple card like Garbodor, I only run a 2/2 line in my deck and 3 Float Stone, can be enough to shut down an entire deck. And sometimes Pokemon that are deceivingly weak, like Flareon, can actually be really strong with the right strategy. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed today's TCG Tuesday. Hopefully PTCGO gets that update so I can finally show off that fun Trubbish Sigilif deck. But until then, let me know if you'd like to see any decks that are in our current metagame in a future installment. And as always, you can subscribe to my channel and learn when my regular videos are coming out. I know some people might be like, hey, what's going on? Why are there 2 trading card game videos in a row? Where's the big stuff, like the top 10s, the fact of the days? They are coming, guys. In fact, tomorrow, I'll say, either tomorrow or Thursday, you guys will definitely see a new top 10 video, and I've got a ton of collaborations and fun stuff coming up to the release of Pokemon X and Y. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you learned something if you aren't super into the Pokemon trading card game. And if you are, hope you had fun just seeing me play through this deck. Have a nice day, and I'll catch you guys next time.